Walking up the Peace Highway, walking up the Peace Highway, walking up the Peace Highway. Praise Jesus.
And hello, Pastor Danny here. How do you know I'm Pastor Danny? Well, because it's telling you that on screen. I'm glad to be with you. We've got a lot to do today, and we're going to get right to it. Pastor Danny Thompson from Believers Church in Abilene, Texas. Going to broadcast now, play some music videos around 11, then about 11:30 or so, we're going to come back with some prayer and more teaching, and man, it's just going to be a full day. So we're going to bring in our Periscope audience. Hello, Periscope. Hello, Periscope. Glad you are with us, and we are happy to have you with us today. We're going to be talking today about what's going on in the Middle East this morning for our first section of our broadcast. Pastor Danny Thompson from Believers Church in Abilene, Texas. Lots going on in the Middle East, and you know, even if you casually listen to news, you know that Russia is there in Syria now. They've always had a presence, but you know they're engaging in battle in the Middle East, and for a long time that has been hands-off area for Russia. Why? Because the United States has been there. And the United States and Russia, for a lot of years, really didn't want to get into a head-to-head conflict. Well, things have changed. So anyway, but let's look at this prophetically, not so much about Russia and the United States getting along or not getting along, because prophetically that really means nothing. But we are going, actually I can show you prophetically today, and I will show you how the United States really doing nothing fits in to everything prophetically, and a lot of people don't understand that, but it was prophesied a long time ago. United States is going to stop being who we used to be, going to be a nothing power. But anyway, we'll look at that, and we're going to start with Matthew chapter 24 verse 3, so you kind of get a background of where we're going. Verse 3, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? What will the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And Jesus answered, watch out, no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Christ, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed, for such things must happen. Underline that if you underline in your Bible. But the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. In the Middle East, this is a great example of that. Not only do we have nation against nation, but kingdom against kingdom, because there's so many tribal factions in the Middle East, so it's all very interesting. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places, and all these are the beginning of birth pains. Now, he is talking to the Jews and eventually the church, but primarily the Jews here. Then you will be handed over and be persecuted and put to death. You will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. All right, we're going to go back to Joel chapter 2 in the Old Testament, and we're going to show you where we are in time. Then we're going to get to Russia, etc. Joel chapter 2, verse 28, and afterward, after Israel's gathered back, after Messiah comes and everything, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days. He's talking about the day of Pentecost, where this was fulfilled. You can read it in Acts chapter 2. Starting with verse 28, Peter stood up and said, this is what the prophet Joel testified. Now, as I told you last week, and I've told you the week before, or the week before that, one of the three, This is a break. This shows the church age, and then we get a signal that we are about to leave the church age and that everything is going to start moving full throttle to set up the end for Israel. And boy, has everything happened very quickly. I mean, this has just been amazing, and it works with biblical timing. Verse 30 of Joel chapter 2, I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So we had an eclipse. We had the 4 blood moons tied to Jewish feasts. The last one being just, this last weekend. And bam, what has happened since then? The whole world is turned upside down. You've got Russia launching, bombing runs inside Syria while supposedly the rest of the world is gathered there and everything else. You've got Iran being given power to continue as a regional power. Iran is now in Iraq. Iran is in Syria. Iran is the one that funds Hezbollah. Iran, in a lot of ways, controls Lebanon. And now you've got Russia, who is doing arms deals with Iran. And a side note, you got China entering in too, but that's for a later conflict, and we'll touch on that at another day. But you have all of this happening, and Israel, I mean, you talk about putting current and past together. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, gave his speech to the UN the other day, just stared down the whole assembly because nobody's doing anything to keep Israel from being, the threat against Israel for being wiped off the map. The United States did not have its main representatives there to hear the speech. The United States has turned against Israel. Watch out, U.S. Again, that's a side note. We're talking about Israel today, but watch out, U.S. Can't go on and prosper. All right, Ezekiel 38, because we're talking about Russia and Iran and Israel and other nations. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against Gog, the land of Magog. Biblically, this is Russia. Okay? The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says, I am against you, O Gog, chief priest of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen, fully armed, and a great horde, and with large and small shields, all of them brandishing swords. Persia, Iran, Cush, and Put will be with them. We're talking about Egypt and Libya. And with them all the shields and helmets. Also Gomer. A lot of people see this as Germany, which does relate. But this is the Crimea that Russia took over just last year. Isn't this amazing? With all its troops, and Beth Togmara and the far north with all its troops and the many nations with you. It's talking about the Sudan there. And of course Sudan is all messed up right now. But anyway, get ready, be prepared, you and all the hordes gathered about you, take command of them. Russia will lead the armies because Russia's supplying the arms. Russia has the military expertise. Take command of them. After many days, this means many centuries, you will be called to arms. In future years, you will invade a land that has recovered from war. Israel was born out of war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountain of Israel from all over Europe, and they're still being gathered now. The Muslim settlement of Europe, let's call it that, and the way that Europe has been going more pro-Muslim and more anti-Semitic has been pushing a great number of Jews from Europe to go to Israel. The last group is now going to Israel. And so all of this is happening at the exact same time. I mean, this is exciting. It's very distressing because what's going to happen, but it's exciting because we see the Bible being fulfilled. And you say, well, what about us? Well, if you're a believer on Jesus, you're excited because you know you're not going to be here long, because according to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians and other places, we're going to be caught up, those who believe on Jesus, the church, and we're going to be up in heaven, and we're going to we're just going to be watching a lot of this. I mean, how much of it we're going to be in, I don't know. How much of it we're going to watch, I don't know. But we know this is happening. So get ready. You'll take command of them. Verse 8 from Ezekiel 38, many days you'll be called to arms. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. The land of Israel was not productive. It was a place nobody wanted to live until the chosen people of God came back and started making the desert bloom. And that's part of prophecy. I'm telling you, it's all exciting. They had been brought out from the nations. Now all of them live in safety. Now we're talking relative safety. It doesn't mean, because we know there's uprisings, there's real problems right now on the Temple Mount. Even in the UN that's being addressed. There is just what's going to happen on the Temple Mount. Israel's going to have to take it over. That's going to clear the way for the temple. They're all ready. If you keep up a biblical prophecy, if not, you're going to have to go back and find it in our archives, because today I don't have time to go into it. They're already close to getting the red heifer. They can't have a temple without the red heifer. They've got to have the ashes of a red heifer, and it's got to be a perfect red heifer. They're getting close to that. So much is coming together at one time, and the zenith of it all is happening after the 4 blood moons. I mean, this is amazing prophecy. All right? After many days you'll be called to arms, and we've already read that. Let's for all your troops and the many nations with you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. So all these nations are going to come against tiny Israel, and they're going to come to take it over. And we've told you in the past that's because of oil. We've told you in the past it's because of natural gas. There's a lot of reasons for that, but mainly it's because these people hate Israel, and they want to take it over. This is what the sovereign Lord says: on that day thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls, without gates and bars. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living at the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan with the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize much plunder? Now who is Sheba and Dedan and merchants of Tarshish and all of their villages, all of their nations? Most likely Saudi Arabia. Most likely European Union and the United States. We're going to see it happening and say, why are you there? Is this what you're going to do? But we're not going to do anything to stop it. We're going to try to negotiate it or whatever. We're going to talk. You've already seen this is already happening. This is why Iran has been given a blank check by Western powers. This is why ISIS has been allowed to continue. This is why Russia has moved in. This is why the United States is saying, okay, Russia, if you're going to do it, just make sure you hit some ISIS targets, and et cetera, et cetera. This is why Europe and the United States are backing off. This is why Saudi Arabia is looking for help elsewhere, because they see what's happening, but they can't do anything. They're not going to be able to stop it. The whole world is following this chapter, and very few people can see it. And it's happening right before our eyes. You've heard, if you grew up in Pentecostal or prophecy-believing churches, you've heard this all your life. You are seeing it gather now in the Middle East. You're seeing all the nations coming together in the Middle East. And I am telling you, this is why we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. This is why we keep telling you Jesus is coming back soon. This is why we stay on this message, because it's happening now in this generation. The generation that saw Jerusalem united back with Israel will not pass away till all these things come to pass. Part of that generation myself. I'm only 53, 54, excuse me. Haven't passed away. And I'm telling you, this is all happening. Verse 14, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to Gog, this is what the sovereign Lord says, in that day when my people Israel are living in safety, you will take notice of it. You will come from your place in the far north, and many nations with you, all of them riding on horses, a great horde, a mighty army. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In the days to come, O Gog, I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me, when I show myself holy through you before their eyes. And we're going to, well, we'll just keep reading this. We got a little bit of time. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Are you not the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel? At that time they prophesied for years that I would bring you against them. This is what will happen in that day. Listen to this, because United States, Europe, we're not going to help. When Gog attacks the land of Israel, God's anger will be aroused, declares the sovereign Lord. In my zeal and fiery wrath I will declare at that time, there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the air, you're talking tsunami here, the beast of the field, every creature that moves along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. Well, we're going to know. Everybody on earth is going to know there's something happening big. It's going to be that big of an earthquake. You're going to have a major earthquake in the Middle East, and then it's going to create a tsunami, which will hit wherever. The mountains will be overturned, the cliffs will crumble, and every wall fall to the ground. I will summon the sword against Gog on my mountains, declares the sovereign Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. The forces of Gog, like so many times in the Old Testament, when God would cause the enemy to start fighting itself through confusion, they're going to start fighting each other. Russia's going to start fighting Iran. Iran's going to start fighting Syrians. I mean, it's all going to happen. In verse 22, I will execute judgment on him with plague and bloodshed. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones, and burning sulfur on him, on his troops, and on the many nations with him. And so I will show my greatness and my holiness. I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Chapter 39, Son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drag you along. I will bring you from the far north, set you against the mountains of Israel. Then I will strike your bow from your left hand, make your arrows drop from your right hand. We're talking about missiles here. On the mountains of Israel you will fall, and all your troops and nations with you. I will give you as food to all kinds of carrion birds and to the wild animals. You will fall in the open field, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am the Lord. So not only is God going to take on the forces coming against Israel, he is going to send fire upon the coast of Russia and all of their lands and their different enemies. Could be nuclear attack, could just be God doing it himself. We don't know, but there will be retaliation, there will be retribution, and the answer is Israel's going to be saved. I will make known my holy name among the people of Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned, and the nations will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. It is coming, it will surely take place, declares the sovereign Lord. This is the day I have spoken of. You say, well, doesn't sound like Israel will be safe. Listen, then those who live in the towns of Israel will go out and use the weapons for fuel and burn them up, the small and large shields, the bows and arrows, the war clubs and spears. For 7 years they'll use them for fuel. They will not need to gather wood from the fields or cut off from the forest, because they will use the weapons for fuel, and they will plunder those who plundered them and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Lord. Hallelujah. And so it's going to happen. It's going to be a huge battle. It's going to have horrible results for Russia and all those with her, but they can't read the Bible. They don't know, I don't guess. They don't believe. And it doesn't matter. God says he's going to put hooks in their mouth. He's going to drag them along. And this is happening in front of your eyes. How much more real, sorry I hit my keyboard area, how much more real can this show that God is? All this is happening now. Russia's in the Middle East. Western Europe and the United States, we're doing nothing. We're not a power any longer. we're bowing before lesser powers because why? Our government hates Israel too. European Union, they don't care about Israel either. None of this is about Syria. None of this is about Iran. This is all about Israel. And it's not just President Obama. This has been going on for a while. This happened under George Bush. This was happening under Clinton. This was happening for a long time. All this being set up. Don't blame just any one person. And if you blame anybody, blame the whole country, because we've allowed it to go this way. And this is it. We are seeing the last day set up. Told you that for the last few weeks. The blood moon signal, the fast pace, Israel get ready, this is all about to happen. Here we have Russia right after that starting military operations in Syria with Iran. And tell you, this is a horrible time, but it's an exciting time. So there you have it. There you have what is happening prophetically, modern day, seeing it happen. So now you know. We'll be back in just a moment. If you're watching online, believerschurch.us, with some music videos. Then we'll be back with our regular, with our prayer time and more teaching on the significance of Jesus. And we're going to be talking today about how He is the image of God. I mean, people want to see God. They see Jesus. Hallelujah. And so you're going to be blessed. So now you know when you see the news. Now you know what's happening. God bless you. We'll see you in just a moment.